Imagine a country where 90% of all wildlife exists nowhere else on Earth, where families spend their life savings dressing dead ancestors in silk, then dance with the corpses, where the vanilla flavoring your ice cream was picked by a child who earned nothing for it. 3 facts before we begin. 1. Madagascar produces 80% of the world's vanilla supply, yet 75% of its people survive on under $2 a day. 2. 95% of Madagascar's lemur species face extinction. Every single one. Nowhere else on Earth. 3. The UN World Food Programme declared this the world's first famine, caused purely by climate change. This is Madagascar. And this documentary will take you somewhere the world has chosen to miss the real life in Madagascar in 2026. Chapter 1. The world's first climate famine. Stand in the village of Fenoarivo in Madagascar's Grand Sud region. The first thing you notice is the silence. No goats, no chickens. They were eaten months ago. The ground is pale and cracked, split into deep fissures by 6 consecutive years of failed rain. The cactus plants lining the road are not decorative. In the Grand Sud of Madagascar in 2026, the cactus is the harvest. This is where the World Food Programme found something it had never documented before. Not a famine caused by war, nor a famine engineered by a government withholding food. This is a famine caused entirely and documentably by climate change. In 2022, the WFP formally designated southern Madagascar the world's first climate change famine. As of 2026, that designation has not been retired. The crisis is ongoing. According to the World Food Programme, 1.9 million people across southern Madagascar were facing acute food insecurity in 2023, classified at IPC Phase 3 and above, the international threshold for crisis and emergency level hunger. That is not a food shortage. This is a sustained emergency the international community has chronically underfunded. The mechanism is specific. Madagascar's Grand Sud has seen rainfall decline by 25 to 30% over the past 4 decades. The IPCC 6th Assessment Report, published in 2022, directly attributes this to climate-driven disruption of Indian Ocean weather systems that historically fed this region. The rains that once produced sorghum, cassava, and sweet potato have become unreliable, then rare, then absent for years at a stretch. What happens when the rain fails for 6 consecutive years? You plant, nothing grows. You plant again, and still nothing grows. By the 4th failed cycle, the seed stock is finished. Animals are sold or eaten, soil erodes past recovery, and options narrow to nothing. UNICEF's Madagascar Nutrition Report from 2022 found that nearly 50% of children under 5 in southern Madagascar are chronically malnourished, among the highest stunting rates ever recorded in sub-Saharan Africa. Stunting is not temporary hunger, it is permanent. It means permanent cognitive damage and permanent physical impairment, locked into a child's body during the first 1,000 days of life. These children carry this damage for life. The survival food has a documented name. WFP field teams recorded families consuming raw red clay mixed with water to produce a sensation of fullness. Geophagy is not a metaphor. It is a documented physiological response to starvation, occurring in 2026 in the country that produces the vanilla in your freezer. Here is what makes this unbearable. Madagascar contributes less than 0.01% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The nations that burned fossil fuels for 200 years are not eating clay, but Madagascar's people are. Her name is Marana, and she is 34 years old. She lives in Ambovombe district, one of the hardest hit areas in the Grand Sud. Her last full harvest was 2018. By 2022, she had stopped eating lunch, then dinner. She eats once per day boiled cactus leaves so her 5 children can eat twice. Her youngest son, 2 years old, was admitted to a WFP therapeutic feeding center in 2023 with severe acute malnutrition. He survived, and Mirana told the field worker 4 words: "We did not choose this." They did not. But the climate famine is not Madagascar's only open wound. Something older has been destroying this island long before the rains stopped, and it may already be beyond reversal. Chapter 2: Biological Annihilation. If the famine does not kill Madagascar, the silence will. Not the silence of drought, but the silence of forests with nothing alive inside them because the animals that filled them for millions of years are being erased. Madagascar separated from Africa 165 million years ago, before the dinosaurs went extinct and before mammals dominated the planet. In 165 million years of total geographic isolation, life evolved along its own separate biological track. The result is that over 90% of all terrestrial wildlife here is endemic, found nowhere else on Earth. If a species disappears from Madagascar, it does not disappear from a country. It disappears from the planet permanently. And Madagascar's species are disappearing. The IUCN Red List classified 95% of Madagascar's lemur species as threatened with extinction in its 2022 assessment. Madagascar has over 100 lemur species, and every single one exists only here. The IUCN Primate Specialist Group has designated lemurs the most endangered group of mammals on Earth. Not in Africa, but on Earth. The primary driver is deforestation. Madagascar has lost approximately 90% of its original forest cover since human settlement began 2,000 years ago. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization estimates Madagascar loses 200,000 hectares of forest every year to slash and barn agriculture, charcoal production, and illegal logging. 200,000 hectares, an area the size of Luxembourg, is burned and cleared annually. But the destruction is not only subsistence farmers with no other options. There is a luxury market embedded in this crisis. The illegal rosewood trade, driven by demand from Chinese high-end furniture markets, removed an estimated $190 million worth of protected hardwood from Madagascar's national parks between 2009 and 2014, according to CITES and traffic wildlife monitoring data. This happened while Madagascar's park rangers had no resources, no backup, and sometimes no salaries. Criminals with chainsaws entered UNESCO-protected rainforests and cut 200-year-old trees. Those trees will not return in your lifetime, or your children's. Over 2,100 plant species in Madagascar are currently red-listed as threatened or endangered by IUCN. That includes 380 orchid species found nowhere else on Earth. Gone from here means gone from everywhere. Malagasy primatologist Jono Rutsimbazafi has spent 25 years studying Indri lemurs. He described watching a family who mate for life, whose calls carried 2 kilometers through the canopy, sitting at the edge of a freshly cleared field. He told Reuters, "The Indri cannot move to a new forest. They are territorial. They stay, and when the trees are gone, they stay until they die." You are watching this documentary from somewhere with functioning ecosystems. For the Indri of Madagascar, there is no somewhere else. What about where you're watching from? Drop your country in the comments, as I'm curious where you guys are watching from, and I read every single one. Chapter 3: FAMADIHANA, Turning the Bones. But now we reach the fact that has been waiting since the beginning of this video. We leave the silent forests and the cracked soil of the Grand Sud. We travel to Madagascar's central highlands, the cool volcanic plateau where the Merina people have lived for over 1,000 years. Up here, the air is sharper, the rice terraces are stepped and precise, and deep in these highland communities, in the villages of Antananarivo province, Fianarantsoa, Ansirabe, something happens every 5 to 7 years that stops every outsider cold. The family gathers, all of them. Cousins who flew from Paris, uncles who traveled 3 days by bush taxi, and children who have never met their grandmother gather at the stone tomb on the hillside. This structure, the fasana, is something every Highland family builds more carefully than their own home, because in Madagascar's highlands, the dead are considered more powerful than the living. The tomb is opened for FAMADIHANA, the turning of the bones. The wrapped remains of the ancestors are carried out of the stone chamber. Some have been there 10 years, some for 30, but they are all brought into the sunlight. They are held and pressed against faces. The family speaks to them directly, sharing births, marriages, deaths, hardships, and harvests that have accumulated since the last ceremony. A live band plays, food is laid out, and alcohol is poured. And then the family dances with the ancestors in their arms. Not metaphorically, the wrapped remains are lifted, embraced, carried, and swayed through the dancing crowd. The family then rewraps the bones in fresh lambamena silk burial cloth, sometimes costing hundreds of dollars per meter. This is the finest silk available, dressing the ancestors better than the living. Then they are returned to the tomb, the stone resealed, and the celebration continues until dark. The scale is significant. The Merina people comprise approximately 26% of Madagascar's population, roughly 7.8 million people. The Betsileo, the second major highland group, add another 3.6 million. The Malagasy Ministry of Culture estimates several thousand FAMADIHANA ceremonies occur each year across the highlands. This is not a fringe practice. This is mainstream Malagasy Highland culture in 2026. The historical root is not African, it is Austronesian. The original settlers of Madagascar did not arrive from the continent visible on the map. They sailed from Southeast Asia. Linguists trace the Malagasy language directly to the Barito language family of Borneo, approximately 1,500 to 2,000 years ago. They brought a cosmology in which ancestors are not gone, meaning the stone tombs are not memorials, but residences. The dead require ongoing relationship, consultation, and care. Here is the paradox that fractures every assumption. Madagascar is approximately 93% Christian or Muslim. Both monotheistic traditions prohibit ongoing ritual relationship with the dead. And yet, Malagasy Christians attend FAMADIHANA, dancing with their ancestors wrapped in silk before attending Sunday church. This is not out of confusion, because to the Malagasy mind, love does not end at burial. The ancestors remain family. You do not abandon your family because a foreign religion arrived 5 centuries ago and told you to. The second paradox is economic. A family in Ambovombe is eating red clay to survive, while a family 2 hours north is spending $500 to $2,000 on silk for their dead. Both decisions make complete sense from inside their own logic. That is what makes Madagascar impossible to reduce to a single story. Should ancient traditions like FAMADIHANA survive in a modernizing world? Or is dancing with the dead a practice that belongs to the past? Drop your thoughts below, as this is a debate worth having. Chapter 4. The Vanilla Fields. Stand at the edge of a vanilla plantation in the Sava region of northeastern Madagascar. The air is warm and dense with sweetness. The vanilla vines climb hand-cut wooden poles, their cream-white flowers opening for exactly 1 day before closing permanently. Each flower must be hand-pollinated within 6 hours of opening. No machine can do this. It requires human fingers, preferably small, precise ones. Madagascar produces approximately 75 to 80% of the world's vanilla supply. Not some of it, but the majority. The Sava quadrilateral, consisting of Sambava, Antalaha, Vohamar, and Andapa, is the single most critical agricultural zone in the global flavoring industry. The vanilla extract in your kitchen, the ice cream in your freezer, and the natural vanilla flavor on every premium food label almost certainly came from here. And you almost certainly have no idea who harvested it. Approximately 80,000 smallholder farming families grow vanilla in Madagascar. During peak season, between 200,000 and 250,000 seasonal workers are engaged in cultivation, pollination, harvest, and curing. In 2021, the U.S. Department of Labor commissioned a formal investigation through NORC at the University of Chicago. Their finding was specific. 73% of vanilla farms in the Sava region employ children in at least some aspect of production, most commonly hand-pollination, which requires small, delicate fingers. This includes children as young as 6, pulled from school during the harvest window. They work without individual wages. The farmer's income tells you exactly how this supply chain is structured. Farmers receive approximately 50 cents to $2.50 per kilogram at the farm gate. In Europe and North America, that vanilla retails at $300 to $600 per kilogram. The gap between what Madagascar's farmers earn and what your store charges is among the largest of any agricultural commodity on Earth. The violence inside this industry is real. Vanilla pods at peak prices are worth more per kilogram than silver, making farm theft endemic. Farmers mount armed night watches during harvest season. Between 2017 and 2022, Madagascar's gendarmerie officially recorded at least 19 deaths linked directly to vanilla theft disputes in the Sava region. Reuters documented this in a 2018 investigation titled Blood Vanilla. The murders were real, yet the farms are still producing and the brands are still buying. Those brands include Häagen-Dazs, Ben & Jerry's, Nestle, McCormick, the world's largest spice company, and Whole Foods. Every premium, natural vanilla product on your shelf traces its supply chain through these farms and through these hands. Look at the vanilla extract in your kitchen right now. Does the label say Madagascar Bourbon Vanilla? A child's hand pollinated the flower that became that bean. That child earned nothing, while the brand built a premium on it. Your shopping cart and their suffering are part of the same system, with no individual wages, no protective regulation, and no accountability. Chapter 5. Daily Life. Walk into the ANNIHILATION market in Antananarivo on a Tuesday morning. Madagascar's capital sits at 1,400 meters on the central plateau, offering cool Highland air even at midday. The streets run steeply downhill in all directions. Vendors arrange stalls on steps cut into the hillside. The smell reaches you before your eyes adjust. Wood smoke, dried fish, wet stone, and something sweet drifting from the roasting corn cellars near the entrance. This is daily life in Madagascar's capital. Dense, loud, and operating in an economy you will not recognize from home. For 30 cents, you eat romazava, Madagascar's national dish. This is a slow-cooked stew of zebu beef with bredes mafana, a leafy Highland herb that produces a mild tingling on the tongue when fresh. It is served over a deep bowl of white rice because every Malagasy meal is built on rice. Not bread, not potatoes, but rice 3 times a day. The average Malagasy person consumes approximately 130 kilograms of rice per year, which is one of the highest rates on Earth. For 20 cents, you get mofo baulina, which are fried rice flour dumplings rolled in granulated sugar while still hot, sold from flat metal pans at street corners starting at 6 in the morning. They are warm and slightly crispy at the edge. They cost less than a fraction of what you spend on a gas station snack at home. For 15 cents, you get a cup of ranonapango, the liquid left after the rice crust scorches against the pot, mixed with boiling water. It is slightly smoky and slightly sweet. It is drunk across every social class in Madagascar, every morning. This is not a substitute for something better. It is the tradition. For 65 cents total, you have eaten a full meal and drunk hot beverages in one of Africa's most ancient capitals. Getting around Antananarivo means using taxi-bus, which are shared minibuses and battered Renault vans running fixed routes through streets designed for foot traffic and ox carts. A cross-city fare costs 12 cents. There are no lane markings, and traffic lights are treated as suggestions. A journey Google Maps estimates at 10 minutes takes 45 in practice. The cost of living in Madagascar is among the lowest on Earth. A basic apartment outside the city center rents for $60 to $80 per month, and monthly groceries for a family of 4 cost $25 to $40. Do not mistake these numbers for efficiency, as they are the price of collapse. Wages are low because the formal economy barely functions, and prices are low because no one can pay more. This creates an environment of apparent cheapness and grinding poverty sharing the same street corner. Would you eat street food in Madagascar? Drop yes or no in the comments right now. Chapter 6: Beauty and Resilience. After all of this, including the climate famine, the burning forests, and the bones wrapped in silk, is there anything beautiful left in Madagascar? The answer will genuinely surprise you. Go west to the coastal lowlands of the Minabe region near Morondava and stand on a dirt road at dawn. On either side, rising 30 meters into the morning sky, are trees that were already ancient when the Ottoman Empire was founded. These are the avenue of the baobabs, Adansonia grandidieri trees, some estimated at 800 years old. Their trunks are swollen to 11 meters in circumference, and their flat canopies look geometric against the pale sky. Each tree stores up to 120,000 liters of water in that trunk. That reservoir sustains the surrounding ecosystem through the dry season. These trees outlast civilizations. The forest around them was cleared centuries ago, but the baobabs survived because they were too large to cut and too sacred to destroy. They stand now in isolation in a landscape that has lost everything that once surrounded them. Their persistence is not inspiring in any comfortable, photogenic way. It is the specific stubbornness of things that refuse to disappear. Now go east into Madagascar's interior to the Malaki region and to a place called Tsingy de Bemaraha. UNESCO inscribed it as a World Heritage Site in 1990. The Malagasy word tsingy means approximately where you cannot walk barefoot. Stand at the plateau's edge and you understand immediately. Centuries of rainfall have dissolved the limestone into a forest of razor-sharp stone needles, some rising 70 meters, separated by chasms so narrow only specialist climbing equipment allows passage. The Tsingy covers 1,575 square kilometers of protected reserve. Inside, you can find 9 lemur species, hundreds of endemic plants, and ecosystems that evolved in near-total isolation. The biodiversity crisis devastating Madagascar's forests has not yet reached the Tsingy, as the stone protects what legislation cannot. And then there is Patricia Wright, an American primatologist who arrived in Madagascar in 1986 for what was supposed to be a brief survey trip. She discovered the golden bamboo lemur, a species completely unknown to science. She spent 4 years lobbying the Malagasy government with that single discovery as her argument. In 1991, they gazetted Ranamafana National Park, protecting 41,601 hectares of primary southeastern rainforest permanently. She founded the Centre Val Bio Research Station at the park's boundary, which has trained over 300 Malagasy scientists. These are not foreign researchers on temporary assignments, but Malagasy people with full credentials to protect their own island. Wright won a MacArthur Fellowship in 1989 and is still active in Madagascar in 2026. Meanwhile, the economic story this documentary must also tell is shifting. The Ambatovi mining complex, one of the world's largest nickel-cobalt deposits, now feeds battery supply chains running to Tesla, LG Energy, and Samsung SDI. Madagascar's minerals are inside the electric vehicles being sold as the clean future. Whether Madagascar's 30 million people benefit from that future, or whether a familiar pattern of extraction without local development repeats itself, remains the defining question of 2026. Madagascar was once called the island the world forgot. It has become one of Africa's most remarkable scientific and cultural stories. This is not because its problems disappeared, but because its people refused to be defined by them. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. What you have seen in this documentary is not a summary, it is a surface. The climate famine in the Grand Sud, the burning forests, the family dancing with their ancestors in silk, and the child's hand on the vanilla vine earning nothing are not separate facts. They are the same fact seen from different angles, showing what happens when the most biodiverse island on Earth is also one of the poorest countries on Earth. Every number in this video is verified by the World Food Program, UNICEF, IUCN, UNESCO, the U.S. Department of Labor, IPCC, and the World Bank. These institutions documented this, and your responsibility is to know it. Madagascar has 30.3 million people, and they wake up inside these conditions every morning. They face the drought, the empty canopy, and the vanilla vine that their child's hands tend for wages that round to zero. And yet, they also wake up beside the avenue of the baobabs, beside stone tombs holding their great-grandparents in silk, and beside a tsingy no chainsaw has yet reached. Real life in Madagascar in 2026 is not a stable tragedy. It is an active one that is still being written. Madagascar doesn't need your pity. It needs your understanding. What would you do, genuinely, if you had been born into Madagascar? Treat this not as a thought experiment, but as a real reckoning. And leave your answer in the comments, because I read everyone. If Madagascar has changed how you see the world today, subscribe to Real Life Files. We're documenting every country on Earth with no scripts, no filters, just the truth. Releasing a new video every 3 days. Next time on Real Life Files, we go to North Korea, where 26 million people live inside a system designed to erase the outside world. This is a place where 3 generations of your family are jailed for one member's descent, and where a famine killed up to 2.5 million people and was never officially acknowledged. North Korea is next.